Well, I will anyway. I mean, if we can, I will.
I can scowl.
You can scowl then, yeah.
Any adverse ones, I can scowl.
We'll just wait for Serena. For about the first half hour before John gets here. He's detained for a little bit. So it is my honour to welcome councillors and members of the public and anyone watching. We can start, please, with any participation.
Excuse me, Chair, can I speak my proof?
8 o'clock, of course, lovely. Yeah, I have to scoot off as well, so my apologies for scooting off. Lynn, do we have an Alison Kazminski? No? No? Okay, thank you. Heather Hall? Glastonbury Cricket Club, Heather Hall? No? Lovely.
Oh, definitely.
Yay. Right on cue.
Yeah, close it, Heather.
Hello, good evening, Heather. Are you ready, or shall I put somebody else first?
I don't mind, I'll start if you want.
Yeah, is that all right? Thank you. If you'd like to approach the table.
Good evening, everybody, councillors, your worship, your vice worship. My name is Heather Hall, for those that don't know me. Sorry if I'm out of breath. And I'm the chair at Glastonbury Cricket Club, based down at Tor Sports and Leisure. In the past, I've quite often come along to council meetings to just give people an update on what's going on down at Tor and the cricket club. I haven't been much recently because it's been the cricket season, and then I've had other meetings, etc. Anyway, I wanted to just introduce myself because I know there's a few new councillors who don't know me, quite a few who know me already, and also just to say, to give you a bit of feedback about how the cricket club's done this year, which is generally great. So we've been pleased to have a successful season on the pitch. We've had lots of new members, lots of little ones coming along, and it's been a good year for us. Our first have secured promotion again, so that's good. And all the little young teams have done well as well and enjoyed their cricket, and we played right through to the end of August. So that was this year. You may have seen some articles in the local press. I've tried to keep people informed so that you know how we're getting on. I believe the cricket club's a real asset for the town, something to be really proud of, and I'm very keen to keep promoting it as much as I can. So I would encourage you to read the press and see how we're getting on, etc., etc. I also want to say thank you to the Youth Provision Committee, who've kindly given us a grant which will cover our youth winter nets next year. So that's very much appreciated. We don't have many means of raising funds down at Tor. It's been a bone of contention for many years, and any grants are very, very much appreciated. The last thing I wanted to say is next year, moving on from the youth grant, is that we're planning for next year and what we're going to do. Obviously, we're very excited about the investment for the town's deal. Whilst it won't be a new building for us, it will be a refurbishment of the changing rooms, and any investment down at Tor is badly needed. So it's very much appreciated. On the back of that, I also want to push to get some security of tenure with Fusion Lifestyle. We really need some comfort and security down there, and with having that, we will be able to approach the ECB to get some funding, because without it, they won't look at us. So it's very important for us to use the impetus of the town's deal to build on that, to get our security of tenure. And I'm hoping that Fusion will be cooperative in that respect. Anyway, so there's that. And also to say next year will be 100 years since cricket was first played down at Tor. So that's quite a milestone. And we're hoping that we will have some type of a celebration. Again, coming back to what I was saying at the start, it's something for the town to be very proud of, and it's a lovely space. Even if you're not a cricketer, it's a nice place to come, and it's something that I think's very much worth protecting. I think that was it. Trying to think if I've forgotten anything. No, I think that's about it. You might see me again if I'm coming back to let you know how we're getting on. But that was just, and then thank you for your support.
Thank you, Heather.
Right, do we have Angela Friend? Angela Friend? Oh, lovely. Hello, Angela.
Good evening, everyone. I'm actually going to hark back to Remembrance Weekend. For whatever reason, Glastonbury Town Hall didn't fly the poppy flag. There may have been a reason, but for whatever, I'm sure His Majesty would not have objected to the Union Jack coming down and the poppy flag going up. Going on to 11/11, what a pathetic showing. There were two of you, yourself and the Mayor, Connor, Piper, Rainbow.
You there?
11/11.
No, we
Oh,
were there,
beg
we
your
were there on
pardon.
Sunday.
Oh, sorry.
People have to have work
In fact,
during the week.
Some of you have to work, Ange.
yeah, I know, but it's always been well represented. The council's always well represented 11/11, but it was poor showing. And now I will move on to Remembrance Sunday. Councillor White. I was always told that if I was going to do a job, I had to do it properly. And your rendition of the Kohima epitaph was in the wrong place. The Kohima comes after the silence and not before. And a lot of people around commented on the fact that it wasn't even your place to do it, but even doing it, you did it wrong. So consider yourself being told off by me, a staunch Glastonian and a staunch Legion member. Okay?
Do I have a right to reply?
I don't know the rules, so yeah. Oh, later, sorry.
It's good.
Although I will say in the defence, if I can, that Michael was told when to do it and to do it,
Yes.
or asked to do it. So I don't think,
Yeah, but it was in the wrong place.
I don't know who did the order.
David
David did the order.
Yeah.
nodded me.
Yeah, it was
Word from David.
it was in the wrong place. It always
Okay.
comes after the silence,
Thank you.
not before.
Thank you. That's
Okay.
yes. We do need
And
to
then,
know how it goes.
was there a plan B if it had been tipping down with rain regarding the piper? He stood in the church porch. Fortunately, it was okay, but had a little boy collapsed next to me. He was standing so still for so long, but fortunately, it was a little Millfield boy, and a staff member was there in no time. But we all had to stand there again for another 5 minutes for the piper. But I did think, if it was raining hard, did you have a plan B? Okay.
Okay, thank you so
Thoughts
much, Angela.
for November next year.
No, that's thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Very much for your time, Angela. Do we have a Kiana? Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors, your worship. My name's Kiana. For those who don't know me, I'm Gatekeeper Shaman here, a Kurdish activist and a sacred activist. I've been involved in the restructuring of mental health services in Brighton and run support groups for neurodivergence. I'm here tonight in my role as sacred activist and resident at Watts Corner. I live in Avalon now for 9 years, and my family hails from a farm in Shepton Mallet. I love this community deeply and applaud the many concrete and creative ways we have risen to the needs of our community during this time of economic, political crisis and global conflict. I am here today to highlight violence in our community, representing a farmer, Joe, and his family, with his permission, in my role as sacred activist. Joe's family run a dairy farm on the road to Sweetacre just beyond the Wells roundabout. His wife expanded the eggs, milk and strawberry shack, which is situated just before the roundabout, and expanded it to provide a valuable resource for our community during lockdown, meaning many could reduce the number of times they went into town. In September this year, they experienced heavy losses from pilfering. They set up a camera, reported it to the police. After the person responsible, a lad known to have mental health and drug issues, pulled a knife on the farmer, they have met with zero response and put a notice up warning people of the danger. At about the same time, I was also met with zero response when I reported unusual foot traffic and very strange goings on, which may or may not have something to do with Operation Scorpio. I felt unsafe and unable to go out at night. I wish to highlight this poor or zero response and also the aggressive police tactics in town, which I witnessed. Covert filming in Chalice Wells during our autumn equinox celebrations. I understand we have a drug problem and they were trying to stop drug runners going up to the county line. This is most valid as winter bites and the economic situation worsens for many, especially during this cold snap, and I can only foresee that these incidents will increase. It might surprise you to know many women in our community are rooting at this current time for England to win, not because they love of football, but because they fear the violence will happen to them if England experience defeat. I was with a woman on Friday who, after 3 months of trying to report a severe domestic abuse case, was met from the police, which can only be described as a runaround. My concerns are that the young police officer, her main point of contact, was not experienced enough to understand the gravity of her situation, nor was he trauma-informed. It's important, as Dr. McGare, who's recently retired from Glastonbury Health Centre, told me, over 75% of our community suffer the effects of trauma. It's pertinent because the police officer is now our beat officer and therefore for many, their main point of contact in town. I appreciate police are overstretched and under-resourced, but with no dedicated department for domestic abuse, crimes and violence proliferate because vulnerable members of our community are not heard and now walk in fear. The men as well as the women. I'm heartened to see our community health hub planned for 2023, but what are we going to do in the interim? Traumatised women and men find it hard to connect to existing overstretched services offered by charities, as abuse from wherever the source leave many frightened and unable to connect. And indeed, our farmers working our land suffer with the effect of Brexit, the low cost of milk, and don't have the time as they are so stressed out. I've known this family for 9 years, this farmer's family, and the stress of his whole situation is etched on his wife's face. So really, what are we going to do in the interim? Thank you for your time.
Right, we have one last speaker, Matthew Halstead. Thank you. Have you spoken here before?
I haven't, no. Well, I gave a presentation to the planning committee a year ago with our proposals. I'm from the Crossman Group. We're an SME developer based in Bath, and we're promoting land for residential development at North Lord Bridge. So about a year ago, I came in and gave a presentation to the committee, but we had to delay the project because of the phosphate issue that's been affecting the Somerset levels. So now we've fortunately got a solution to the phosphate problem, and the project's up and running again. So that's why I wanted to come here tonight, just to give you guys an update on where we are with the proposals, so you know when they come in. So Connor, if you want to pop on a slide. There's a very short presentation here I've put together for you. So for those of you not familiar, this is the site here that's North Lord Bridge. It's a 1 hectare piece of land just to the rear of North Lord Bridge with agricultural barns at the corner. There's a North Lord Bridge roundabout at the top and the reclamation yard at the corner. The land's currently used for rough pasture, and the agricultural barns are currently vacant. So just flick on a slide, please. Just so you can get a grounding for where the site is. There at the top left, they are the barns at the corner of Godney Road. On the right are the cottages on North Lord Bridge. As you drive past those cottages heading towards the roundabout, on the left, there's a bank of trees there, our site behind that, and the roundabout's at the bottom. And on the bottom right-hand corner, that's the view coming the other way. And I believe that building on the right used to be a pub, so it's just so you understand where we are. So since we've been working up the proposals, we've undertaken a public consultation event. I wrote to 305 people and businesses in the local area. We set up a consultation website and invited comments back from members of the public on the scheme. I'm pleased to say that the majority of people were supportive of the proposals, but as ever, some concerns have been raised. They're listed up there. Principally, the need for the development to be sustainable, affordable homes, safe access, and not to add to the issue of flooding. From our perspective, we feel that these are all issues that we can resolve during the determination of the planning application. And I also met at a private meeting with those residents who live very close to the development, so I can talk them through the issues and take on board any comments that they may have on the design of the scheme, which is something we have done. So this is the next slide. So this is our latest proposal. It comprises 27 dwellings, 30% of which will be affordable homes. They are a mixture, 30%. It's a mixture of property sizes. We've got small 2-bed flats, 2-bed coach houses, 3-bed houses, and 4-bed houses. And I hope you can see from that it's a. I hope you can see from that it's a very green development, because as a company, we're a small company, and we've made the decision to deliver 10% biodiversity net gain on this site. That's not actually a requirement yet. It comes in at the end of next year, but we've taken the decision to volunteer that now. So to achieve that, we've got 2,000 square metres of public open space that will include wildflower meadow planting and reinstated grassland. And we're also proposing 33 trees across the site, so it is very green. At the northern corner where the agricultural barns are, so the northwestern corner, the barns have gone and we're putting public open space there. We think that that's a very dangerous junction there at Godney Road. Since we've had the site, we've had a tractor crash into the bonds already, so it's been a bit of a disaster for us. So we've took the decision not to put any development on that corner, keep it open, so it's a nice entrance to Glastonbury. And we're also incorporating a public footpath within the site, so it gets people off that road to connect to the footpath next to the football ground. So we think that's a really big win on the site. So I'm just going to the final slides now. In terms of the architectural appearance of the buildings, we're trying to keep it traditional, but at the same time add a little bit of a contemporary touch to the buildings. So at ground floor, we've got a stone finish with render at first floor. The contemporary touch is the projecting gables, which have a wood finish and with brushed metal surrounds on the dormer window. So I think that's a nice touch and stops it from being too much of a pastiche development. And if you could just go to the next slide. Similarly with the smaller units, the only difference here is that we've got brick at ground floor level. So all the properties on North Road Bridge are all predominantly brick and stone. So that's what we're trying to capture the architectural treatment of the buildings. And then on the final slide, that's the street, that's the length of the site. So that's stood within the site. If you're stood on our public open space now, looking at the row of houses, and we think it works really well as a development. The affordable houses are in there, but we can't tell which are affordable and which are normal open market housing. We think that's really important that it's tenure blind. And we're also looking to exceed building regulation standards in terms of energy efficiency and CO2 reductions. We've got a scheme in South Somerset where we've got 40% energy reduction and 50% CO2 reduction. So that's something that we're going to try and deliver on this site as well. So to make it super sustainable. And we're looking to get the planning application either just before Christmas or just after Christmas. And I will let you all know to see when that goes in. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We can ask questions. We're actually running quite
Chair,
late.
it's not a planning meeting. I think.
No, exactly. That's what I mean. But Serena's got your hand up. But I don't think we.
Well, if there's not time, don't worry.
I think there's time. Sorry. If that's okay.
When would you like to speak to me?
What if you'd like to deal with? Deal with it after.
Yeah, I'll wait. That's okay.
Thank you so much. So we are actually running a little bit late, and sorry, Laura, I know that you wanted to be squeezed in, but I think, we're now 20 past or 25 past, so we've got a huge agenda in front of us, if that's all right, for next time.
Unfortunately, John can't be here, and I did transfer a lot of important information over for tonight.
Can you fit it in 2 minutes? Laura, can you fit in 2 minutes? Sorry, Claire. 2 minutes? Yes.
Just a brief update. I have sent the emails that I sent over to Martin Ford and also Andrew Doyle, which is part of the MAG group, and also to do with the evictions on the Beckery area for representation of the traveller community. As such, in the email it did state that evictions were not the major priority of the group of the enforcement officers and of MAG, but hence having that email that was sent to me on the 10th of November, there was another load of paperwork that went in on the caravans stating that we had to leave our property and take our caravans and vans with us by Monday last week, which then put the whole of the community under a lot of pressure and strain. We had mental health going through the roof again. I then got back onto John Cousins, and luckily that afternoon there was a meeting as a whole with the town council and also representatives from Somerset County Council. So at the moment everything's been put on hold, but again, lack of communication. We don't know what's happening. So we're now in limbo. Do we have to leave in minus temperatures, freezing cold, nowhere to go, Or do we stay where we are and then face fines, convictions, being arrested, also probably going to prison? So this is all on our minds at the moment. Where do we stand? I went to the town council meeting to do with the proposals of the plan for this as a whole for Glastonbury, which is great. I managed to speak to 2 people from Somerset County Council. I know that there's one site going ahead with 40 pitches. I also know that there's a proposal with the part of Bridie's Farm that the Travellers work with conjunction with Bridie's Farm for the community for their pitch. How that's going to plan out, I don't know. And I've also been told from Somerset County Council in emails that there are other bits coming forward. But this is where I go backwards. Lack of communication again. No paperwork, no plans, nothing's been shown. There was no stall so we could actually have a look. So I'm asking the town council as a whole, because we've now got people coming together from various different areas, not only representing Glastonbury, but Butley and other areas, and people that are higher up than me on Travellers and Gypsy councils from different areas, and they're all coming together and they want to see those proposals and paperwork. The people need a little bit of a say. They're the ones that are going to be living there. They're the ones that are going to have to be paying rent, whatever, to keep that site going. So thank you. Great news. We're not going to please everybody, I admit that. But thank you, we're getting somewhere. But please, if we can organise some kind of meeting with MAG and the PCSO to find out whether or not we can actually apply for permission temporary to stay where we are until these sites are built, which, like I said before, can take anything up to 3 years. Because all we're going to do is keep going around in circles. But thank you for your time.
Bring it up.
Quickly, if you profess to be talking for the travellers, may I ask you to go down behind Moorlands?
Terry, this isn't the time. Terry, this isn't the
Down
time.
there.
Well, hang on a minute.
Not prolong, Tara.
I wasn't allowed to talk with Matthew.
Absolutely disgraceful.
Can I just say, on that note, I apologise, right? But we have a problem. Like I explained before, it's not always us. We've woken up in the morning and we've had caravans dumped down there that have been smashed. We've had rubbish turn up that has been dumped. We cleared it and we've taken it away, and we have contacted the council dump people. Somebody broke into, opened the metal fence and broke into what we call the poo factory and left a whole load of rubbish. We've been clearing it off.
I know. Can I just,
We have been doing our best.
may I ask,
We have been doing our best.
Emma, darling?
But we need a bit of help.
Yes.
It's not always us.
I was going to ask her to light the candle, actually. Yeah?
I'd just like to, if I may, Claire, if I may, I just say this is a bit of a positive thing. I had a personal letter from Inspector Reid of Avon and Somerset Police, and he wishes to engage with the travelling community on this very issue. So if you would like to
I would like
that, then I shall pass on your contact details to him, talk to you at some point in the near future in order to...
If we had skips down there as a community, we'd get down there and we'd clean the place up.
He wants to engage with the travelling community on this issue.
Light the candle, and as you're doing that, I've also had word that they're not going to do anything. There may be court dates, whatever, but
We're scared. We've got nowhere to go.
nothing's going to happen before Christmas, okay?
I've got 3 people at the point that we've got mental health team already. It's not been easy.
So if we could think about peace in our town, peace in our world, and unity, please. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Now,
We have an Irish lassie called Michelle that has caused a lot of problems, and she has, from what I've heard,
yes, I know her.
a lot of stuff down there. The community as a whole is trying to deal with it and clear it.
Thank you.
Apologies.
Yes, I've seen it. Thank you. Welcome our mayor to the table. If you would like to take his seat. And we will start our meeting.
So thank you to the Deputy Mayor. I do apologise, councillors. I was at the annual meeting of the Forget Me Not Club, who have their Christmas dinner on a Tuesday evening in December, and it is historically the same Tuesday as the Town Council meeting, but it was an honour to be there, and I'm glad to be here now to receive apologies. Do we have any?
Your Worship, I've had apologies from Councillor McDougall owing to family commitments.
Thank you. And any declarations of interest? Councillor Napper.
Yeah, Mendip District Council and Street Parish Council, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I note that if councillors decide, whilst we go through the agenda, that they have an interest that they feel it prudent to mention, please do so at the appropriate item. Item 3, to approve and sign as correct the record of the minutes of the meeting of the 8th of November. Councillors, do I have a copy of these minutes?
You should, Your Worship. There is a printed set to be signed. I wonder if the Deputy Mayor has them in her hand. They were circulated with the summons.
Yes,
There we
thank
go.
you.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. I draw councillors' attention to page 47. Page 48. Page 49. Page 50. And page 51. Page 52. Yes.
An interesting thing. I didn't go to that meeting, so I didn't know about this. The proposal of a projects and events officer will be made full-time at 37 hours per week, and the Town Council trial not having a weekend administrator in Town Information Centre. This was recorded by a...
Councillor, do stand when you're speaking, please.
Yeah, sorry, I thought we were in... yeah. And then, I don't know if you're aware, the average cost of the average salary for somebody that you seem to be seeking is about 32,500 starter. And I'm just a bit conscious that we're a little bit overstretched on the salaries at the minute, you know, with up to about 350,000 a year at the moment, with all our, consultants that we keep taking on. So I really don't understand. Well, it's a proposal. Yeah, I'm sure it's not going to be a possibility in any way, shape or form for quite some time, especially as we haven't got the infrastructure yet of, the proposed new development of the atrium, etc., and whatever comes with it. But furthermore, I mean, if you're going to employ an entertainment officer at £32,500 a year, he doesn't have to do much, does he? Because he's getting paid. Whereas in normal practice, you'd have an events officer putting on an event and taking the ticket price or a high percentage of it. And then you earn from the reciprocating refreshments available at your cost. You know what I mean? So I don't understand this, why we're persistently getting in people at 32 £2,500.
So, Councillor, we go through the minutes to see if they're a correct record of the
Yeah,
meeting.
I know they're a correct record, but I'm just surprised. I'm just adding my surprise that this is even a sensible proposal.
Thank you. Your surprise is
Thank you for your
noted.
time.
So, page 53. '54. '55. And 56. Yes, Councillor.
I would just like to commend our town clerk because I can remember previously that nearly every month I would have complaints about errors and absences from the minutes, and the new town clerk, the minutes are very full, and I haven't yet found a single fault. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Duly noted. Councillors, do I have your agreement to sign these off as a true record of the meeting? I will suffice. Thank you very much. While I do so, I will look to the town clerk to receive an update on the actions of the last minute. Connor.
Sorry, may I remind you, Your Worship, there is actually a second set of minutes to sign.
Oh, yes.
That's from the extraordinary meeting held with the police inspector. They were also circulated. The Deputy Mayor may also have.
Is it in there, paper?
Thank you. I not having them in front of me, I failed to note them. So, councillors, I draw your attention to the meeting of the council, the extraordinary full council meeting held on the 14th of November, page 57. And page 58. Councillors, if there are no amendments, can I have your approval to sign these minutes as a true record of the meeting? I will suffice.
Aye.
While I do so, may I ask the clerk if he would give us an update on the actions of the last meeting? Over to you, Connor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so I'd be delighted to give you an update on some of the actions from the last meeting. The first action was to chase the high street benches and continue to progress the additional bike racks. By some feat of magic, the benches on the high street reappeared. I had absolutely no idea they were being recited, so they are back. I'm sure Councillor Ronnie Dougal and a number of you around the table were very pleased when they came back. And the siting of the remaining bike racks is in process with the project officer, who's working closely again with Councillor Ronnie Dougal. They went out with Mendip District Council, I believe, at the end of last week to coordinate Mendip's bike racks and the Town Council's bike racks, and to make sure they're in the best places for people who use bikes in the town. The budget monitoring items that were queried, the answer on all of them was that the income is received at any point through the financial year, and it will be, there's no risk to it. It just hadn't been received by the last budget monitoring report. That is income from Austin Memorial Homes, the Burial Board, St Edmunds Community Hall, for Town Council officer time reimbursement. There were a number of items that went and were considered by Finance and General Purposes for budgeting. That's complete. And Heart of the Tribe Gallery were informed formally of your support of their grant, so they could draw that down from Mendip District Council.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we've probably all received quite a strong letter from one of the shopkeepers in the high street, and I wonder if we were going to react to that. It was the objection to the seats being put back in the high street. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cotter, you wish to speak to that?
I'm wishing to speak to that.
Councillor Metz, you would allow Councillor Cotter to speak to that? Thank you. Councillor Cotter.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Napper, I've also received shall we say, some queries concerning the repositioning of the seats. And like our town clerk, I've been unable to actually trace down who authorised for them to go back, which is a bit unusual. But now they're back, what we have to do, I believe, is to ask the police to be a little bit more observant than they have been in the summer regarding antisocial behaviour around there, because there are complaints. There's no getting away from it, and so I believe that's our way forward. Is now they're back. Good for the people like myself who have mobility issues, but we have to make sure that they're not monopolised by one particular part of the community. Otherwise, that won't be good for anybody. Okay.
It was a damning email which I received. Everyone else did.
Conscious, is this in reply to Councillor Napper? Thank you very much, Councillor.
Yeah, I went to see the gentleman who wrote the email. I'm sorry, I'm disabled and I can't, and that has been mentioned in the past. I went to see the chap who wrote the email, and there's a number of other people along that stretch outside the co-op, not just that one, a number of other shops, which I won't name, but I can do privately, that are very concerned about the return of the benches. And I noticed that the police, in their designing out crime report, bring up the benches as well, and relate them to antisocial behaviour. So I do think that, you know, this isn't just a kind of random thing from one chap who's kind of a bit under the collar, but it's something that the police have picked up, and a number of other traders in the high street. So I think it is something we should look at very, very seriously.
Thank you. Councillor March.
Your Worship. I think I've been to see the same chap, actually, and I said, well, I won't identify you specifically because he is concerned about being identified very publicly and then getting some form of retribution from the people that are causing the problems that he's described. And what I've had in my inbox in this week is one email enthusiastically endorsing the decision to put the benches back and saying they're the best things since sliced bread, and then at the other end of the scale, the worst thing since the bubonic plague. So it's a pretty tricky path to have to walk, and it seems to me that it's entirely one of enforcement and the practicality of doing that against the background of financial restraints on the police. But he feels, he's even offered his property to be fitted, or to fit himself, his property himself, with CCTV to provide the evidence, and the police have told him they haven't really got the resource to examine the film and do anything with it. It's that exasperating. So I think I voted for the reinstatement of the benches some time ago, so I had to admit to being on that side of the fence as far as the benches go. I don't like the idea of it just conceding defeat by saying we can't have facilities in the town because they'll be abused. The problem itself has to be addressed, and I would think that specific instances of serious misbehaviour and penalties appropriate to it would be the way to go. But how that's done, or how the police can do it, I'm not quite sure. It seems to be a perennial problem. He says he's been aware of it, or a victim of it, for 20 years. It's not a new, well, we all know it's not a new thing. I haven't got any answers. I just said that I would report his sentiments to this meeting and advise him to come to the one tomorrow, but he can't make it tomorrow, sadly, but I'll let him know what happens at that anyway.
Thank you. I am pleased that we will have the Police and Crime Commissioner come to the Council tomorrow night. We might be able to ask him some questions around this. Councillor White.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'd also seen the email about great approval for those things being back, and it is nice to have somewhere to sit when one is wandering the high street, and not least because the bench outside the Avalon Constitutional Club, just by the zebra crossing, is gone as well.
Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, And so I go, oh, okay. So there's two sides to the story, that's all.
Thank you. Councillor Locobandu.
I was simply going to remind us of tomorrow's meeting with the police.
Thank you. So, councillors, are you minded that this council should make a formal response to the letter that Councillor Napper has raised? And should we consider doing so after we meet with the Police and Crime Commissioner tomorrow, as we may have some better understanding of the way that the police might be able to deal with the situation? And we also might have some more intelligence on just how they miraculously returned to the town centre without anyone knowing. I'm looking at the clerk. You didn't know they were coming back. That's right, isn't it?
I had absolutely no idea, Your Worship. I saw it on Facebook and I had to check the date of the post because I didn't believe that they'd actually reappeared, but they have.
I would have hoped that they could have been a little more orderly in their presentation. One appears to be at a slight angle to the other, but we can't have everything. So, councillors, we'll return to this question tomorrow night. Thank you for raising it, Councillor Napper. We now have to note the Beat Team's update on the latest crime statistics report. Councillors, is this on the screen behind us?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I circulated the Beat Team's update to members. This is it written, and then on the next slide there are the latest statistics that they're pointing me to from the Police UK website, which now, in light of the working group being set up, this is how they'd like to change reports to full council meetings. I'm working with the sergeant and expecting that they'll physically come every quarter to a meeting, but in between we'll receive email updates and can view the crime statistics.
Thank you.
So please give me a general nod when I can go to the next slide.
Councillors, yes, Councillor.
I think that's an excellent proposal. And thank the police for once every quarter.
Councillor Cottle.
Yeah, I don't see. Maybe I should have asked this question, but I would like to be assured that our local police beat team are paying attention to the crack houses that we have in the town and not just leaving them alone. I think it's important. I won't be here tomorrow night, so if I can put that question, because I know of at least two, and possibly more, that are confirmed and that need to be chased up. Okay? So I'll just leave that with you for tomorrow, maybe.
I don't think that's for the Beat Team, but yes.
Yeah, well, no, there are other things, but they need to be aware.
Councillor Henderson.
I think just a quick come back to what Councillor Cottle mentioned there. I mean, for a start, I hope you have mentioned that to police already. I mean, it's the first I've heard of that. Secondly, I mean, I think you need to give, if you, obviously we won't be at the meeting tomorrow night. No. Give Connor as much detail as possible that you can pass all the mayor and pass that on to the Chief and Crime Commissioner. Yeah, please.
Councillor Smythe, would you be happy to repeat what you said a little earlier on, as a member of the public couldn't hear you? Perhaps if you could turn the microphone.
I'd just like to thank the police for their concern and also to agree to come and speak to us at least once a quarter.
Thank you. Could we go to the next slide, please?
Can't see it. Can you make it bigger, please?
I can try.
I don't have it on here.
So the latest month that Police UK have got on the website is October, because they are normally a few weeks behind, but each month when we review it, and I did provide the link, you can go and get this directly from the Police UK website, the link, and regularly view it.
Yes, Councillor. So, councillors, I think again this is something that we perhaps should have with us tomorrow night, Connor, these statistics from the police, so that we can raise any issues around these items with the Police and Crime Commissioner. Any other comments, councillors, before we move on to the next slide? Connor, is there one more?
No, that was it, Your Worship. It's those three breakdowns.
Thank you very much. So, councillors, I think that as far as tonight's meeting goes, if we note the report and we actually make sure that we raise it with the Police and Crime Commissioner tomorrow evening, as well as any other issues that we may wish to speak to him about, and indeed whatever he wishes to speak to us about as well. So, item 6, to consider the Designing Out Crime Report from Avon and Somerset Constabulary. Connor, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Worship. It was circulated with the summons, and this is the Designing Out Crime Report on the screen behind us. So it covers a number of areas, and there's some feedback in some brevity on each of them for members to consider. I don't consider that any of them are necessarily directly our responsibility, other than perhaps the War Memorial and the Raise Planters. Delightful things.
And where this is saying, which we talked about, I'm imagining this is from the inspector or the superintendent who attended our meeting?
I believe, yeah, I did think it was written in a slightly weird way. It's between the Designing Out Crime Officer of Avon and Somerset Police and the local sergeant, Sergeant Lancy.
I see, thank you. So, Connor, just one question. When it says to consider, is it expected that this council has any resolution or any action that you would like to see coming out of this item?
No, I don't think so, Your Worship. I could have worded it to note, but I just wanted councillors to read it and think about it, as well as formally noting it. I presume these points will be some of the work that the new working group with the police will consider.
So, councillors, I think we could, the recommendation around the War Memorial, I think we could perhaps, as a council, recommend that that goes to Glastonbury and Bloom for consideration, as they would be the part of this council that would deal with that. Would that be all right with you? Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I'm at times when we discuss the benches, etc., I'm always minded of the Sikh community in one of the larger cities of this country who had the unfortunate position of living in a red light district and were constantly dismayed that the police did nothing to tackle the prostitution on their streets until the elderly members of that community decided that they would en masse stand by the prostitutes in groups, and they quickly made the streets completely free of prostitutes because it wasn't a very attractive situation for the people who wished to procure their services to have a lot of Sikh elderly people looking at them. So perhaps the community itself could consider sitting on the benches en masse. Maybe the people who are worried about sitting on benches could take over the benches, and perhaps people don't like sitting on benches will have to find somewhere else to sit. It is within our power as a community to address situations we find ourselves in as well, rather than waiting always for the police, who probably have something better to do, to address it. To receive the Budgeting Monitoring Report, item 7. And so this should be on your table.
It should be behind a sheet of paper with the title Notes to accompany the budget monitoring report. It was circulated electronically, but has also been printed out for you this evening. And I haven't received any queries on any items in advance to get an answer from the responsible finance officer, Your Worship.
Thank you. May I convey the council's thanks to the responsible finance officer for an excellent set of notes, as always, that go with these reports. Councillors, any item that you wish to comment on, remembering that it is our duty to scrutinise our spend. Councillor Lockabandi.
Just to let people know, Councillor Manning and I are meeting with Jane, the responsible finance officer, tomorrow to discuss her keeping of the accounts. And one thing I'd like to propose to her is that she finds a way to compare the actual with the budget for the year to date, rather than the budget for the whole year, which makes it difficult to really know where we're at.
Thank you, that's a good point. Councillor Manning.
If that last comment is to be limited, I think it's actually Friday that we're getting together. Not tomorrow.
I'll check my diary.
Yes, Councillor Ronnie Dougal.
There's a civic regalia one, and I'm just wondering exactly what that's about. I can understand civic hospitality, that is looking after, you know, various odds and sods and bods who come in that we need to look after, but what is civic regalia about? I see we haven't spent much money on it.
Civic regalia is there for if we have to do anything with the robes or with the chains of office or any of the things related to the civic aspects of the council with regard to the formal occasions that the mayor or the deputy mayor or members of the councils may be attending. So I think that's it. The budget...
a chain apparently, but it was covered by public donation.
Yes, so there is, if members may note, the chain that I'm wearing this evening is a new chain. This chain, the money for it was paid for by the mayoral budget. So there's a budget that is there for the mayor's use for transport and everything. So I put the entire mayoral budget towards purchase of the new chain, and the rest of the money, because it wasn't enough, was raised through the kind donation of members of the public. The mayoral chain is the price there, and that's why it's above the budget. What I would say is historically the budget doesn't tend to be spent, so that's what it relates to in this year. So that would be the amount of the spend there relates to the chain. I expect that's in the note. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that comes out that the money spent on the chain was connected with the mayor's budget, but it's not connected with civic regalia. And I'm wondering why we have a civic regalia budget, but we didn't spend it on the chain. We took it out of the mayor's budget.
So I'm not sure if I can see the mayor's budget here. Is it?
But there is a note about it.
Your unspent mayoral allowance from the previous year was used.
Ah, right. Thank you.
Number 9.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's if you imagine that the money has gone from the mayoral budget into civic regalia budget with the donations as well. Okay. So there'll be a corresponding...
Why not from the civic regalia budget?
Sorry, it's the civic regalia budget is £500, I believe.
Ah.
So rather than having the budget with the actual, we've got the actual before the budget. So the actual spend is the first figure.
Right. Okay, understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So other things such as if we have to replace the mayoral hat, and I do believe that the mayoral robes received their decade cleaning. Every 10 years we like to give them a clean. I believe that happened. I was very, very pleased to see the mayoral robe come back from the cleaners almost as if it was a new garment itself. Some of the holes that were in it appeared to be missing, and it had a pleat on the back, which it never had before. Obviously, some other mayor elsewhere in the country is wondering how he got holes and lost his pleating, but there we are. Or her. So, any other comments on the budget? Yes, Councillor Cottle.
Yeah, thank you. I've got one. I'm making sure I'm looking at the right bit of paper, actually. Yeah, I think I've got the right one. Burns the Bread, the unit. We received £1,500 less than we've budgeted for. Why did we give them a reduction?
I don't believe we have. I think it's the time of year and probably it's paid quarterly or something like that.
Okay, because that is a bit of an odd one, really. It's quite reasonable price, actually, that unit.
Well, if you imagine we're 3/4 of the way through the year and there's another quarter to pay,
yeah,
it might pan out.
That should work out.
Yeah. Any other comments? So, Connor, my regular request to you, is this just for our noting?
Yes, the budget monitoring report's for noting, Your Worship. It's the schedule next that gets signed.
Thank you. So, councillors, if you are happy to move on to the schedule of payment, which is the one where we need to formally approve the payments in the month. On the other side. Thank you. This is it. So councillors will note there are 3 items on the reverse of the paper as well. I wonder, councillors, whether it is worth writing to the new unitary authority to express our concern that to charge this council tax rates for the town hall, the car park, the chapel and the St Dunstan's House, etc., is effectively charging the taxpayer twice, because we raise the money to pay those rents from the taxpayer and then we pay it on to another authority. Would it not be better for us not to have to raise that amount of money and then not charge the council tax twice, as it were? Yes, councillor.
I suggest we write that letter to the Mandip District Council. Quick question.
Is that a proposal, councillor?
It is a proposal.
Is there a seconder for that proposal?
I think we have mentioned it to Mandip District Council before and got very little response. Perhaps it'd be best to wait till the unitary is in place.
Yes, I think we should write to the new unitary authority. Yes. Yes, they may, at the beginning of their life, they may decide to give the taxpayers of Glastonbury a break.
You never know. But I'm holding my breath.
I wouldn't.
So, Councillor White has seconded. Anyone wish to speak against the motion to write to the new unitary authority requesting that this council doesn't pay business rates to a council that we have to precept our residents for raising the money to pay their council tax, as it were? Is everybody happy about that? Yep. All those in favour? Thank you. Seems unanimous.
No, it's not unanimous.
One abstention?
One abstention.
Quite right, councillor. Any other comments on spend? Councillors, do I have your agreement to sign off the schedule of payment? I will suffice. Thank you. While I do so, we move on to item 9. Note the resolutions of the delegated committees. Connor, may I ask you to speak to this, please?
And Your Worship, there is a report tabled for you all concerning the resolutions of delegated committees. It begins with the Youth Provision Committee held on the 7th of November 2022, and I believe for you all should be 3 pages long.
Five, isn't it?
I think it's 6, but printed on 3.
So, councillors, this is for our noting. If there are any items that you feel we should speak to, please raise your hand.
Just make a declaration of interest that I'm chair of that committee.
Thank you very much. So, councillors, are you happy to note this? I will suffice.
Aye.
Thank you. We now move on to item 10, to receive updates from advisory committees and consider their recommendations. So you should have this in your packs. It's 2 pages. The Neighbourhood Plan Advisory Committee held on the 3rd of November. The committee recommended that our 2 county councillors look at the key findings of the LCWIP. I'm afraid that the name of that escapes me, but it certainly looks very...
It's the cycling and walking, the local cycling and walking programme that Mendip District Council, there's been an advisory thing going on, and they then produced a report that was sent out to all of us.
Thank you. It may be useful for us, Connor, to suggest that rather than using the initials of a thing like that, we should spell it out, because not all councillors are party to the advisory committee, and we might not all know what it means.
I'll feed back to the admin officer.
Thank you. So we're asking our 2 county councillors if they would look at this local cycling and walking report, which has some recommendations in it itself, and it may be things that highways might be able to do. So if we could ask the officers of the Neighbourhood Plan Advisory Committee to forward that on to the 2 county councils, that's great. And the committee also recommended for the Resilience Committee to look at chapter 3 of that document, which I believe they will do. Chair, I'm looking at you. So in Bloom, it was resolved to action the Manor House telephone box, which I think is a very good idea. Yes, Councillor Manning.
I think it's a very good idea too. I think it's great that the phone boxes are being repurposed, although it would be nice, I think, to have some public consultation on this, like have the neighbours been consulted about these plans. I declare an interest. I run a community group for the people living on Manor House Road via Facebook page, and I try and keep people updated, and I was under the impression there was going to be some consultation happening on this, so I'd be a bit disappointed if it just went ahead without public consultation.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, Councillor Manning, to liaise with Sarah Marks, who's the clerk for that committee, and I'm sure that we're more than happy to hear any views.
As the chair of In Bloom.
Thank you. I think that actually it was suggested to us by some neighbours that we use that. That was put forward by some of the residents. That was what we were looking at. And so, although I don't think there's been an official consultation, I think that they are aware of it, or at least a lot of them are aware of it, and are, quite happy to endorse it.
Thank you. The World Heritage Advisory Committee, the bottom point there, I think it was resolved, rather than to proceed with the application, it was resolved to proceed exploring the application. And we're in the process now. The officer of Bath City Council, the Baines City Council, Bath itself, that officer is going to come and speak to our committee in January. Date will be announced, and that officer will try and, I think, resolve to talk us out of the idea, laying down just how difficult it will be. What I will say is that I think this is going to be a lengthy process, and I think that we must proceed with our eyes open, as it were. But just to correct that, didn't resolve to proceed, resolved to explore further the application. Thank you very much, councillors. If we just note those, if you're happy to note those. There were no recommendations to full council by the looks of things. So we now move on to receive an update on the warm space. Oh, sorry. Yes, councillor.
Yes, the Climate and Ecological Emergency Advisory Committee, I know there's no recommendations, but I thought once again that this council would like to hear what happened at the last meeting. Is that okay for me to give them?
Yes, I do apologise, councillor. I didn't see your hand raised.
So the 5 Mile Food and Farming Project, which is to try to make Glastonbury and the 5 Mile area around the area of Avalon resilient in the face of the crisis, has had a very good meeting. There are now 3 groups that have been identified that are working on taking it forward. There's the group of growers, there's the group of the various different parish councils, and there's also a group to put forward the People's Assembly for March, where the pilot project, so it's going to be a pilot project with 10 growers over the next few months until March, and then they will present the results from the pilot project, and the People's Assembly will look to take it forward to involve a greater, wider community, so that the whole area can be resilient with regard to food and farming and biodiversity and what is needed. And that's going very, very well. Connor's already mentioned that the discussions with Mendip about the siting of the bike racks has taken place. And I walked down the high street with 3 people from Mendip the other day, and we identified various places. So cyclists will have more places to park their bikes rather than parking them against shop windows, which I've noticed, at least one notice saying, please don't put your bike here. So because of more bikes being used, we really do need to make sure we have more bike racks, and that is happening. And good news for any member here who would like to use it, please let me know. We have a thermal imaging camera that has been given to us by Wells Sustainable Group and Avalon Community Energy. And this thermal imaging camera can be used inside and outside your house to detect the areas where you are losing heat. And so it's really good for seeing where your drafts are, or other places where you're losing heat, losing energy, and that helps to reduce your energy costs. So people you know who might be in energy need, and this camera would be helpful for them. We've got the loan of it through to January. So we've got a few weeks where we can use it. One person's already taken it to use with her neighbours, and it's coming to me for use at Windmill Hill. For anybody here who wants to use it, we've got the camera available. I see Connor has his hand up.
I must, as it's been mentioned, declare that I'm a director of Avalon Community Energy Limited. Connor and then Councillor Napper.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could I just ask Councillor Ronnie Dougal, has Melissa got any plans to use it in the town hall, or have we already had a survey like that done?
So I've been in touch with Melissa. She has already had the survey, and we had the consultant's report about that, as you will well know. Yes. But Melissa knows we've got the camera. I've given her the type of camera. She was going to see
if she could find an expert in that type of camera who she could work with. But definitely, I have informed her that I've already got it, and for her, by all means, she can have it whenever she wants it to use with whoever for whatever purpose, particularly around the town halls and Dunstan's house and so on.
Brilliant, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Napper.
I note that you say residential, but do you cover industrial units as well?
We've got the camera to use.
Thank you.
So, you know, if you want to use it for your industrial buildings, absolutely. All buildings, whether business or residential, need to become energy efficient. And we need to reduce our energy costs and energy needs. So, as far as I'm concerned, I would like the whole town to be using it.
Thank you. Councillor White.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, Susanna this morning at the market had, like the poster and everything, was talking about it, had leaflets, explained how they'd used it, gave some sort of good tips. And the second thing for Serena was the 5 Mile food project. The open day is planned for the 19th of March next year. So in the town hall.
Thank you. Councillor Manning.
So I think it's great that we've got this film imaging camera. It's fantastic. I just wondered though whether it would be better to offer it as a service rather than as a camera. So rather than the camera being lent out, it's actually Melissa being lent out or something. So to actually use the camera.
The thing is, it needs somebody who knows what they're talking about. So I've been trained, and Susanna's been trained by the person who's lent us the camera from the Well Sustainable. Melissa obviously is highly trained. And when my daughter had it up in Scotland, it's actually a charity, and the expert came round with the camera, and he was being paid. We are all doing it as volunteers, although obviously when Melissa's using it, she's a paid person. But otherwise, we haven't got the paid expert, nor we have arranged the money. It would have been good to have done that, but we thought it better to get the camera while we could over the Christmas period when it wasn't being otherwise used. But yes, it would be wonderful to have a proper service, and maybe we could arrange that for the future. I would love that. I would really love everybody in Glastonbury to be able to avail themselves of this camera with an expert advising them. This is where the draft, you can do draft-proof blinds or whatever it might be that the advice could be that the expert could give them.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Cook.
Yeah. Just a question following on from that. There's no charge for the use of this, is there? No. So anybody who wants it, whatever, they can call you or Melissa or whoever.
So the person who's lent it wants me to be responsible. Because it's an expensive piece of kit.
No charge to anybody.
No charge for anybody, but whoever will receive the benefits from it, it will depend on my time, on Susanna's time, and if Connor's willing for Melissa to be part of it on her time as well.
Yeah, with no charge.
We don't have a paid expert to go around with it. You see what I mean? It's all voluntary.
You're looking at people who need the service.
Yeah.
Right, because they may have drafty houses or whatever, and they don't know what they're doing. So, and they may not be able to afford it. So what I'm getting at is that you'll provide this service. You'll go around somebody's house, find all these little holes everywhere, say, there you go. Yeah. That's what you need to fix.
That's what you need to fix.
And there's no bill.
And there's no bill. There's no bill.
Excellent.
They have a community benefit society where they give grants of up to £300 to people to put in insulating blinds or insulating curtains.
So you've identified that. So then you give them that form, say, right, get in touch with these people. They'll give you.
And they'll give you the grant.
Excellent. That sounds good.
So it's actually a community benefit fund. ACE itself is a community benefit society. Must declare an interest. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. No, just wanted to add, we also talked about videoing it, so the next people, so we can actually train up more people as well. So videoing people doing it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the report. So we move on to, speaking of energy efficiency, receive an update on the warm space in the town hall for this winter. Conrad.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm very pleased to say that we haven't received it yet, but we have been awarded funding of £1,000 from Somerset Community Foundation to host a warm space in the small hall through December, January and February. So I'm working with the Projects and Events Officer and the Town Hall Manager to put together a timetable of when the small hall will be open as a warm space, and we're planning for the first week to be week commencing the 19th of December, once we've got all the paperwork out the way, policies, safeguarding, organised volunteers, etc., etc. So that will be running until the end of February, early March.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor.
Sorry, me again. I noticed on Facebook that they've got a chart out of places that are providing warm spaces through the winter, as well as places that are providing food. So maybe our town hall warm space could be added to this chart so that people know. I think, isn't that Glastonbury Community Support Group, I think, has put that on Facebook, as one of them anyway.
The chart was produced by Fen Baggias of the Glastonbury Mental Health Network. I need to declare an interest in that, as I am a trustee of the Glastonbury Mental Health Network. But so Connor, if you get in touch with Fen Baggias, she can add you to that list. I think it also might be prudent to know when the other warm spaces are available, so that we make sure that we are providing as much option rather than repeating the same times as perhaps another space is available.
That's one of the things we're working on, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. And you can register our warm space nationally with the national movement as well. Connor, did you know about that?
I did not, Your Worship, but I do now, and I shall.
Thank you. The benefit of listening to Radio 4 in the morning. So any other comments on the warm space? We now move to consider the proposed terms of reference for the Arts, Culture and Events Advisory Committee, appoint its membership and set a date of its first meeting. Councillor White.
Just on this terms of reference, it says the committee name is the Neighbourhood Plan Advisory Committee.
I noticed that.
For the events, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. I wonder how that could have happened.
Possibly the town clerk being lazy.
Connor, do we have these? Do we have a copy of this?
They were circulated. I can get it for the screen. The only thing that's different from every other advisory committee set of terms of reference, Your Worship, is I believe in section 2, where it says that the advisory committee can look at arts and culture events and initiatives, etc. in the town. The rest is very standard to all of the other terms of reference that the town council has adopted, including having the wrong name at the top. However, that will be amended. I'm just trying to get a copy of it put up onto.
So Connor, it may be worth just checking with Melissa, because we had a look at the advisory committee terms of reference for the climate and emergency group, and some of the wording, which I can see now must have come from perhaps the neighbourhood plan advisory committee, was not relevant to the correct standing orders. So we amended that last night, and it might be prudent to use that as the basis for any other advisory committee. The neighbourhood plan advisory committee was quite exceptional in its size and its scope as well, was still happening. Whereas I think the newer version is probably more appropriate. It might be worth us considering changing the membership to the ones that we did last night, if we could note that. But councillors, all that was clearing up that all councillors can be a member of the advisory committee, and that any councillor can join a committee under one standing order. There's a point in the standing orders where you can, I think it's 38, where you can join a advisory committee if you wish. You don't have to wait to the next May. And also that an advisory committee can be made up solely of members of the public, which it needs to be added to this as well. So that would be the changes in the membership section. Are we happy with the functions? So Connor, do we need to formally approve this, or do we just need to note it?
Just to consider.
You can approve them subject to the amendments that you've raised, Your Worship, and I've made a note of, because then the terms of reference exist. and then for members to indicate who wishes to serve on that, and then to set the date of the next meeting as the rest of the agenda item. But yes, if you could approve them subject to those amendments, and they'll be presented at the first meeting of that advisory panel, just so everyone can check that those were done, that would be great.
So I'm looking for approval with the amendments. The amendments will basically be the name of the committee will no longer be Neighbourhood Planning Advisory Committee, and that the membership will be in line with standing orders. Yes, Councillor White. Would anybody wish to speak against the proposal? I'll show of hands, all those in favour.
That as unanimous, Your Worship.
Thank you. So now we need to ask councillors who'd like to indicate whether they would like to attend this advisory committee. I am minded that, of course, we will have one extra event that we may wish to do something for next year, which is the coronation of His Majesty the King. So, councillors, anybody who wishes to be on this committee, please raise your hand now, and we can ask the clerk to make a note. When the clerk calls your name, please lower your hand.
So I have councillors Don Francesco, Smythe, White, Mandu, Osborne, Manning, Henderson, and Oakden, and Cook.
Amazing.
And Councillor Price has to be on it. Thank you.
What a tremendous committee that shall be. And finally, do we need to set the date of the first meeting? Connor, do you have any advice on that?
My advice, Your Worship, is in the new year. Let me...
I don't seem to be doing anything on the week of the 25th, apart from on the 25th.
Can I suggest perhaps Monday the 16th of January, or Thursday the 19th, or the following week, perhaps Monday the 23rd, Tuesday the 24th, or Wednesday the 25th?
Shall we go with a Tuesday? Tuesday the 24th?
Of January.
Of January.
I couldn't, but obviously none of us will, we won't all make it.
Thank you, councillors. We'll choose that date, and then we will move forward from there. So, councillors, thank you very much. We now receive county council reports. So, Councillor Cottle.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I believe you've already you've had a written one already. Yep, an update. On there, could you please note to report, you should have had it, Serena. The town clerk had it yesterday, and I believe put it out yesterday.
I circulated it, yes.
Circulated it yesterday. Okay, so you've got it somewhere. So what I would suggest is that when you go through it, the major thing to look at, for which I regard as very important that you do, is to report all of the block drains you see in your area.
Yeah.
Can you report them instead of just saying, oh, somebody else do that? The link is on there to report them. Do it, because that gives me ammunition if they're not cleared. Okay, the fact that they have been reported, and we've got lots in Glastonbury that need sorting out, and that's the gullies as well. All right, so just make sure.
Would it be quicker, councillor, to report the ones that aren't?
I know that probably would be quicker. But we've got to get it done. We've got to have something done about this because it's caused all sorts of troubles.
You don't have to tell us.
Regarding something else, I will be looking in the new year for people to come up with any highway stuff they want doing, like double yellow lines and things like that.
Road signs?
Well, we can talk about road signs as well, and I'll pass it all on to the right people, and with a bit of spirit, shall we say. So we'll make sure of that. I think that's something else that needs to be looked at properly. So that's from there. That's really the county, and the county stuff is ticking over as you would expect at this time, because we're going through with all of the work that our friend Liz Lyshon is working very hard on, which is to combine all the councils together. She's the one who's doing a lot of the work.
So she needs a lot of support. So I just like that. I'll put in my district one now, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I've done. I've had scrutiny. I've had licensing at Mendip. Lots of. I've got lots of casework at the moment, which seems to be increasing as people seem to be realising that it's only going to be down to me and Susie in the future after May. So I'm getting it from all over the town at the moment. That just seems to be happening. But something else that I'll bring up at the moment, which is worth speaking about, is I've been approached about another community garden within the town. I'm going to see the lady on Thursday. I've already checked out who owns the land. It is owned by Mendip, and licenses are obtainable. So that would be good. We will be looking, once I've got it all finalised and sorted out properly, I'll come back to the council, hopefully either in January or February, so we can rush it through. Once I've seen their actual proposal, to get the endorsement of the town council, and because that helps in getting the licence, okay? And so that'll be that's something worth doing. I think something worth pursuing in this particular area of the town. Who I'll talk to the town councillors where that is when I've got 5 minutes. So I think that'll be interesting. Something else that did come up recently has been the seats, obviously the benches being reinstated. And any of you who read my Facebook or the Glastonbury Facebook pages, you will have noticed that a green person has put on there that we should put signs on the chairs, the benches, asking for people to be respectful and to stand up and let older people sit there. But to be quite truthful with you, I don't think the people where the objections are will do that. I don't think they'll take any notice if they've been drinking special brew or whatever they drink these days. So I think that was something, and that was actually a green supporter high up in your green hierarchy, I believe, at one stage.
We have a green hierarchy.
You have a green hierarchy, I'm sure you do.
And what we learn.
And well, you can work out who I'm talking about. Not difficult. So that was something that came to me. And then there's always other stuff going around. Obviously, people with no money and all of this, and where we try to help. And I have been pushing out continuously on my my internet, my Facebook page, about all the warm weather and things like this that Mendip are doing for all the people, and where they can go so that nobody sleeps out in this cold, horrible weather, which I don't think anybody should be sleeping out there, sleeping rough. They should all be housed somewhere. And the number was incredibly low. I was quoted two numbers. I was quoted one of 16 and one of 24. Now that seemed quite low to me, and this is from the authorities, because I'm following it up. I'm quite keen on this one. And I was told that you can take it, you can offer people, but you can't forcibly take them in and make them go and sleep in a house. If they want to sleep under a hedge, that's up to them. And they take the risk of, getting hypothermia or worse in this weather. So there you go. I'm quite happy to answer any questions that I can. I'm sure somebody's got some. Mr. Napper. Mr. Napper.
Well, I was going to say that we discussed putting signs on the benches a while back, and the ones outside the church have already got signs on them.
They have,
saying that, please be aware of other people who may need them.
Yeah, that's it. So we need to put them on the other ones then. Maybe we should be doing it or mend it.
Whether it works or not is
whether it works or not is another thing. So it's worth a go. Okay, thank you.
Councillor, I tried for many years to see if I could get a halo on the zebra crossing on Street Road. I just could not get it done. Whether you can get it done, can you take that on for me, please?
I can take that on for you.
down in the Tesco car park, I noticed that there is halos around some of the bulbs there, and it makes a heck of a difference. And the other thing is, which I didn't fail you, but that is the sign out at Wells Road of the bridge sign. It's still not there.
I know it's still not there, and I have complained. But don't worry, Terry. I don't stop complaining just because I'm not in opposition anymore. So I'm keeping on about it to try and find out what's actually happened to it.
Well, I did it for you. You can do it for me.
Yeah, I know. I'll be doing it for 3 years as well, I think.
I think what the problem there is they've lost the wonky bracket that had it on the particular angle, and they can't put it back up.
No, I did it.
And
I spent a weekend on it.
Hopefully we'll get that sorted, and I will keep on, because I keep telling people that if you can't get the small things right, then what hope have you got for the big things? And it doesn't matter whether you're in opposition or in power or whatever. That's what you've got to do. You've got to do the small things, and then the big things are easier. Okay, right.
That is a safety thing out on the street.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely. Okay, thanks very much. Yep.
Just to remind you that an organisation called The Newt that sponsor Chelsea Flower Show were interested in doing some of the community garden work when we started the Fisher's Hill thing. So they might be worth getting in touch with.
That'd be brilliant. If you could forward that to me in an email, that'd be great.
Susie Hart knows them.
Okay, right. Susie knows them. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson, would you like to give your report?
I'll be short and sweet, Your Honour. The only connection I've had with Mendip over the past month was a planning committee board meeting, which went on into the late hours. Very interesting. Nothing really pertaining to Glastonbury. I've been to 2 asset management meetings with regard to the Bailey's proposal down at Beckery, and that's moving forward ever so slowly, hopefully to everybody's satisfaction. But there's several different groups down there who all are asking for their piece of the cake. And the only other thing is there's another planning board meeting tomorrow evening, and there are actually 3 Glastonbury applications in that. One application is from a person sat around this table. Another one is to do with the tour leisure, and the other one is to do with changing places toilets in St John's car park. So that's all 3 very positive things I will be speaking on.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the councillor? I can report that the 2 meetings I was supposed to go to were both cancelled. So I haven't had a meeting, but I have had some requests for yellow lines or double yellow lines, which I'll let you know, and that's on St Edmunds Hill. Heard quite a bit about that, and also some concerns about animals being left out in fields, and I believe that there may even have been the death of 2 calves recently, and the advice that I saw was to go to the RSPCA, which I think is correct. But is there any part of Somerset County Council that deals with animal welfare?
I'm going to think about that one, because I'm not sure. I will look and I'll ask, but I don't. There probably is, actually. It's in the back of my mind, but I can't think. I'm really astounded that somebody's got calves that have passed away in the fields.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but this is what I've seen reported.
Yeah, because the RSPCA definitely, and I'll double check with the county, because it's not unusual for cattle to be out this time of the year, Mike. No. It's quite common practice, but yeah, I'd be a bit concerned.
Thank you. So, Councillor Much, then Councillor Cook, and then Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I got involved in this discussion on the Glastonbury notice board, and I asked around a bit, and then I asked Alderman Tucker. I thought he knows everybody, and he said, contact the vet, because they know who owns every bit of land.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Whether that, actually, I don't know what the outcome was, except that the person that was on about the calf up Bushy Coo said they'd been back and then found that the calf had been treated and was looking better. I walked up there and couldn't find a single cow of any description. So I presume I was in the right place. I was a bit baffled by it. But it's something that keeps coming up. I found myself in that position once with a sheep tangled up in bracken, which I think is quite common, brambles, and tried to saw through with a key. But when you've got a dog with you, that's tricky because you have to tie him up. And then if he's my dog, he's going berserk, wanting to get at the sheep or wondering what I'm doing, you know. And it ended happily, but it is a recurrent problem.
Thank you. Councillor Cook?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure that you'd be able to, we must be able to get a good contact from the National Farmers Union that we could have come down. You know, we could throw all representatives.
Yeah, and a few DEFRA.
And then have a contact number rather than RSPCA or especially a vet. I mean, vets is, you know, going to charge some money, isn't it? Whereas if we've got a solid approach from the National Farmers Union, who will know procedures, they'll have every avenue covered there, that's what they're there for, then they could educate us a little bit more on about what to do, and then we can educate everybody there.
Thank you. Very, very good advice. Councillor Henderson?
I was going to say NFU.
Thank you. So, and also, Councillor Cottle, there's the trial, I believe it's a trial, of the parking permits on Wells Road. Is that something that will come to an end, or is that going to be permanent?
I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% sure because it will depend on the residents. I know that there was one resident who was very much opposed, but that seems to have calmed down. He seems to be happy. I've had no complaints from anybody along there. Actually, Councillor Henderson may know because it's in his area. Yeah, I know who the complainant was, but I'm not going to say it in a public place. So hopefully, yeah, it's. I would imagine it'll be something that people will choose to do because there's been others who were misinformed and believed that just if one person on the street wanted to have it parking permits, they could get them, which was absolute rubbish. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm not 100% sure. I thought you were going to ask about something else.
No, councillors. Well, only that there are a number of residents who have asked me whether their street could have parking permits, and I think that would be quite a. You know, I just don't know what to say to them.
Point them in my direction. I'll talk to you about it.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, thank you. The only light I can shed on that is that I wasn't actually directly involved with the parking permits outside Michael Stretch Road, but it was one of my previous neighbours who sort of organised the application, and I'm pretty sure you needed, because the original application was just between Chindit and Buttclose.
That's right.
Yeah.
Although it did seem to extend a bit further towards Manor House Road when it actually was
around with a little bit, yeah.
So the only bit I was aware of was the Chindit to Buttclose, and as far as I'm aware, they needed the approval of all of those residents to actually put the application in. So I assume that they must have got approval from all those probably 10 houses before they applied, and as far as I'm aware, they all seem pretty happy with it. I haven't heard anybody coming to me moaning and groaning. So I wouldn't be. I can certainly ask the neighbours and find out.
Thank you. Councillor Ronnie Dougal.
In terms of safety, with regard of coming out of Manor House Road and turning onto the Wells Road, with it being parking permits, it means that there's fewer vehicles in general parked there during the day. And so me on my bicycle coming out of Manor House Road find it, I would say, 80% safer than it used to be. And so if road traffic safety or safety of pedestrians and cyclists is to be taken into consideration,
turning right, that is a nightmare.
To permanent, then I would like that to be taken into consideration, please.
So, Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Smythe.
Yeah, just a quick question. How is it enforced if it's if you've got permits and say someone parks there doesn't have a permit? Does it mean that the traffic wardens have to? That's an extra patrol for them.
I think one of the permit holders would report it.
Yeah, but then
Okay.
then it's up to the traffic
Yeah,
wardens.
yeah,
It's their job. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Smythe?
Yeah, thank you. As Nick, Councillor Cottle knows, it's one of my old chestnuts that those 2 parking spaces, when you come out of Manor House Road and turn right, there's at least 2 parking spaces that need to be put down to double yellow lines because it's a blind spot, total blind spot. It's an accident waiting to happen. So with this in mind, this parking restrictions, 2 of them need to be taken out and put double yellow lines on. It's an accident waiting to happen and has been for years.
What we'll do, okay, I'm sorry, I'll come back on that a minute, is that in the new year, we'll work out between us as councillors, everywhere where we sit, we think there should be yellow lines and things that should need to be done. Then I'll take that to the county. Okay, I know the exact officer to go to now, which is quite handy. And we'll see what we can get. Okay, because it doesn't always work how we would like, shall we say. But we'll see what we can do. And I think that's...
Just to come back on that, if I may, before that parking permit's allowed, you know, carte blanche, those 2 spaces need to be taken out because it's an accident blind spot.
Yeah, but if we put that in, we can see whether they'll do that. Yeah, it's up to the officers. It's not up to us. We can recommend, okay, and that includes the town council, mind, where I'll put that through, and then it'll be up to them to decide. It won't be up to me to decide. It'll be up to the officer to decide whether that should be removed on a safety basis. Okay?
I understand completely, but there are other town councillors in this room who are responsible for that ward of St John's, and they should be knowledgeable of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure Councillor Napper remembers the problems with this no end. So I have Councillor Cook and Councillor Ronnie Dougal, and I believe was there another councillor who wished to speak? Anyway, Councillor Cook.
I jumped ahead of you. All right. Yeah, I thoroughly agree with you, Mike. That's an absolutely lethal junction there. And especially when there was, I remember last summer, there was a tree van there, cutting a tree down there somewhere, and you just couldn't see a thing. You know, coming out of there, turning right, it's absolutely lethal when there's something there. So there has to be 2 car parking spaces there as soon as possible. The other one that I regularly see myself, and have nearly come a cropper with the dog, is Street Road, coming from the street, turning left into Tor Leisure and, Morrison's. That road there's no yellow lines there, but somebody started parking there, right on that corner there, and that's just opened the door for about 3 or 4 other cars and vans to park there, right? So the same thing, if you're a pedestrian walking your dog, this is my explanation, of close damage, where you're having to look around the corner at Street Road. Well, if you're coming from street and you're signalling left, there's nothing to stop you except a body, who's in front of the cars looking up to see if there's a car coming, and it's coming around at 30 miles an hour. It's going to happen. There's going to be an accident there. Because that piece of road, as well as that one, are the 2 absolute priorities in this town, where somebody's going to get hit sooner or later. It's only a matter of time.
Thank you.
I'll come back on that again. Yeah, thanks for that, Rick, because I think if you put that into me in writing in the new year, we'll get around, we'll have a discussion about it around the table, hopefully, and then we'll work out, and then I'll take it all forward, and we'll see what we can get done. And that's the thing.
Thank you.
Can I just come back on that?
Yes.
Well, is there any point in why not making a proposal now, a motion now?
No, I think that it's the timing with the county.
That we write something to the district councillor.
No, I think the reason why Councillor Cottle is asking for us in the new year is the time that he's being asked to collect the information to submit to officers. So I'm conscious that Councillor Ronnie Dougal and...
Yeah, it's just while we're talking about roads, Nick, what chance is there of having the whole of Windmill Hill estate a 20 mile an hour limit? I mean, it's crazy.
It's an estate, it's residential, there's children, there's narrow roads, there's lots of cars parked, and the cars zoom along. I know I was talking with somebody in St Dunstan Road, she was complaining about the speed. I know people complaining about the speed in Selwood Road, same down Whiting. Is there any way we can actually, we did ask, I remember 10, 12 years ago we asked, and we were told no. But now we've got it in the rest of town. Is there any way we can get it up there?
Good idea.
That's a good idea, as Steve just said. Actually, I'll sound that out. I'll see what the feeling is over that, because we've got 20 mile an hour quite a lot, and I would personally like to see it down over Wales Road, because there's a lot of people down there who would like it. Yeah. So it's worth a push. Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor.
I was just wondering what one would have to do to make the you know, Nick, the secret spaces that are free in St John's car park, make them residents only and badged.
I know the ones you mean, and that's an interesting.
Not many people with an address in St John's Square, and we could all have one each.
Yeah, I'm just thinking where they're located and who would. It's worth a go.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, it's definitely worth asking and trying to. Yeah, that's on my list.
So, councillors, what I suggest we do is in January we'll have an extraordinary meeting of this council with the two county councillors, specifically with one item on the agenda, which is to look at where we would like to put enforcement on the roads and any other issues related to the highways that we feel is important, so that we can actually advise our county councillors what we've heard from the residents and what we're concerned about. So I would like to draw that conversation to a close, if I may now. But Councillor Cottle, will you liaise with Connor and also your fellow county councillors to come up with a few dates for us?
I will.
Thank you. So now we need to receive verbal updates from representatives to outside bodies. Councillor Napper.
Thank you, Worship. Coming out of paradise is bad as well. Thank you.
Yes, Adam and Eve never got over it.
I'd like to report on the carnival wash-up, which we had last week. It was the road closures were a great success. There was a gigantic crowd, and I think if I ask the President of the Carnival Committee, how many people do you think was there?
What, Carnival?
Yes.
I've got a clue.
There was. Well, we haven't got a clue, but I can assure you that it was a bigger crowd than normal. 80 to 100. What was a concern was a dispersal of some of the people along Street Road. There was a bit of a safety comment about it. And the procession next year is going to start earlier than it did this year. There was a bit of a problem with the procession because there was a fire, a chimney fire in the high street, which didn't add to. But I don't think it made too much of a problem. We'd like to give congratulations to Collins, our town hall
caretaker.
Yes, because he did a lot of security for us, and I believe that there was an infiltration of a couple of lads coming up here, which they had no rights to. So Colin should have a pat on the back. We did have a discussion on a little bit of lack of support from the town hall. Because it is a premier function, the carnival in town, and the prize giving in March has to be done out of town because the budget of the hall hire is out of cost. and perhaps this could be revised for a 2024 season, because we have to go out of town, like I say, for the prize giving, if that could be noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would just like to say on behalf of the council that it was absolutely a tremendous event. I think it might actually have been the best carnival I've ever seen, and I think this council should give Reg a round of applause now and his team. So I notice Councillor Cook.
Yes, recounting. It's the first time I've done it, but I walked around from the G&P first, down that way, and then walked down that way, and then down Street Road, and then down the bypass, and then all the way back again. All right. Now, in that walk, I was taking pictures as well, but they didn't come out too well. But I started off around here and I thought, wow, this is busy. This is the busiest I've seen, having had the pub over there. I mean, I haven't seen it packed like that for many years. So I was counting them in blocks of, say, 50 to 100, if I could get it right, sort of 5 deep, whatever, wasn't too difficult. So, but adopting that kind of process all the way around, even down to when it was 2 or 3 deep, say, make a certain allowance for that. Now, I can assure you, I counted more. I got to 70,000 by the time I finished up back at the what's the name, Hawthorns. 70,000 to there. What I didn't count, what I didn't do, was then go up the high street and go down Wells Road, where there's another. So I'm suggesting that there is definitely between 70 to 100,000, possibly more, that came to that event. And it's been historically advertised by Carnival in the past. I remember that they used to advertise that there was 100,000 coming to town back in the day. Now that might have, I think I've said this before, that might have been a little bit of a shot in the foot, because when the new licensing came about, that put them in a new bracket of fees for license attendance. So no, hang on a minute, it's only about 50,000. But whatever it was, I mean, that's when I started actually taking an interest in the count. And there was actually probably about 50 to 60,000 back then. So this was definitely, possibly over 100,000, which is huge for a small town like this,
Thank you.
Thank you, Reg. Yeah.
Just going on from that, I don't know whether you know or not, but it costs the Carnival Committee about a big shot of about 47 to 50,000 pounds to hold. And that is the actual Carnival Committee. So the money which they raise goes straight out to the Carnival. About 50 grand.
Thank you. Any other reports, updates from outside bodies? So, Councillor Henderson, Councillor White.
Just to carry on from the Carnival talk, I know that in the past, Reg, we've always complained at how little people tend to donate at the Carnival, and I just were wondering what was the take this year, and was it sort of more acceptable?
We officially, at the county meeting, all the towns declare how much money they received there. We declared 17,500 at the meeting, but there was still money coming in. So it's about 20,000.
And is that average or better than average, or?
It's about average.
Okay.
It was poor collection for the number of people who were there.
Yeah. Okay.
It works out at pennies. Really,
Yeah.
If you broke it down, it would be about 2p a person.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the big problems is that you can't shake a bucket anymore, which is a great shame. The HMRC, I believe, have declared that we cannot shake a bucket.
Oh, God.
I'd heard that, but on Wells Road, people were shaking buckets and people were bunging money in there. Yeah. So I think that must have been a myth.
Well, councillors, I'm going to move on to Councillor White. Outside body?
Yes, please. Very briefly, town deal. So we had a successful open day. As Claire had come earlier that you missed, She said there wasn't a table for the enabling project, which is true, there wasn't. So in the town deal open day, all the other projects were represented, but not that one. We had a board meeting recently, and there it was raised again about misrepresentation by the press. So that came from the town deal side rather than our side, you know, and so they were very unhappy about that as well. You'll have noticed that draft grant funding applications have gone out to most projects, and then also planning permission. And so, as Steve said, the Tor Leisure one goes to the planning board tomorrow, and then we've got the Dunstan House one out on the notice board, out on the lamppost outside. So that's the original planning application and for the public consultation, and then the one by the pantry is the Abbey thing there. So all of that stuff is sort of rolling along quite quickly. Then the other thing was we had a meeting of the Austin Memorial Trust last week. They decided to put the rent up slightly. I think it was by £5 or something like that. And all of the people are on housing benefits, so that's all paid anyway. And then there'd been some maintenance done. We'd spent £1,200 just on the porches, so all of the woodwork outside and the window frames was all broken. And so that has gone to a contractor and then sort of gardening. But otherwise, they were very pleased. We had tea, coffee and mince pies here when a couple of the residents came and brought Christmas cards. So we said thank you very much indeed.
Great, thank you. Any other reports from outside bodies? So we now move on to Mayor's announcements. I've attended a number of things over the month, but rather than labour those, what I would like to say is tomorrow at 10 o'clock is the cutting of the Holy Thorn. It's going to be quite a prestigious event this year because, of course, it's the first one for the new monarch. Councillors, if you wish to attend and join the civic party, please could you be here by 9:30 in the morning in the council chamber. We will be supported by the High Sheriff and one of the deputy lieutenants who are coming to represent the monarch. And we will be going to the St John's Churchyard around about 40 minutes to 10 to arrive there to listen to the children, etc. I understand that there is going to be national press there and possibly one of the national television services is going to record it as well. It's going to be quite a prestigious event. So it would be great if councillors who are able to, could join us tomorrow. Thank you. Communications and announcements.
Your Worship, if I may, I have a few to draw to members' attention. So tomorrow, obviously, is the extraordinary meeting organised with the Police and Crime Commissioner at 7 p.m. in this room. That's a public meeting just like this one for anyone in a public gallery. The Mayor's already gone over the Holy Thorn cutting, and I've been asked to draw to your attention that Mendip District Council are upgrading play areas in Glastonbury, and that's the table of areas and equipment or surfacing that they are choosing to update. And I've been asked whether you would consider formally supporting that, so I can write it in the minutes so that Mendip District Council can draw down Section 106 funding for those improvements.
Section 106 money from where, Councillor? That's Connor.
They haven't specified exactly which developments they are taking the funding from. So
I like Glastonbury developments.
Well, yes, because the Section 106 agreements normally specify a certain radius in which they can be spent. So I, like yourself, Your Worship, hope we're not doubling up on the Watts Corner Section 106 that Youth Provision have been looking at. However, I've been in discussions with Mendip District Council for a lot longer about that and Youth Provision's plans for using it than they have with me about this. And I have chased confirmation that we can use the Section 106 money with the head of service. I haven't yet had a reply.
So, councillors, I would be wary at this moment in time of approving this, because we've gone through quite a long process of arranging a spend. It's been through many different committees of Section 106 money approved by the 4 ward councillors for the district. And there's a new Section 106 officer who may not be fully aware of the history of this, who may have different ideas in mind. What I would suggest is that if we note these and give our tacit support in principle to it, but I think that there needs to be a correspondence between Section 106 officer, the town clerk and the 4 district councillors to make sure that they're not trying to spend money that we've already arranged with them to spend on play equipment in Glastonbury. So would anybody wish to speak to this? So Serena and then Councillor Smythe.
I've got 2 things. Number one, with regard to the play areas, I know that the play area up Windmill Hill had various play things taken away which have not been replaced, and so it's denuded to some degree. They had the tunnel and all of that lot that were one area which now aren't there. So why is there not an upgrading of the Windmill Hill play area? That's number one. Section 2, with regard to the section, whatever it is, we were talking, do you remember the new estate that's being built on the bottom of the Old Wells Road, and there was a field to one side of it, and you were going to investigate what was happening with regard to that field? And I'm just wondering, this brought it to my mind.
Very good.
What is going on with
So I think we just deal with this in 2 stages. Now you've brought that up, I think we do need to touch on that. But first of all, so Councillor Smythe, you wish to speak?
Thank you. I'd like to follow the Mayor's advice and seek further clarification before we agree in principle or otherwise on this, because I think the new 106 officer is missing something here.
Thank you. I see another councillor wishing to speak. Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, just follow on what Serena was saying. I'm sure that that development on was it called Petrie Farm?
No, stock and
didn't they donate a piece of land to the council for a play area?
So, Councillor, can we deal with that in a moment? Because that is really important for us. I drove past it yesterday and thought, what happened to that? Yeah. But first of all, I think we were asked to consider these 3 play areas being developed with Section 106 money. Yeah, okay. Good job somebody mentioned that. I think that there's a proposal from Councillor Smythe that we agree in principle to it, but on the condition that we check with the Section 106 officer, with the clerk and with the 4 ward councillors that Mendip are not trying to spend money that we've already designated to other play equipment in the town. I'm nervous of that. There's only so much money to go around. So is there anybody wishing to second that?
Second that, please.
Anybody?
I have, I'm chair of youth provision.
That's fine. Your interest will only be interests outside of council. So is there anyone wishing to speak against that? So I have a show of hands of all those in favour.
You'll abstain, Steve.
Well, I should abstain too then, okay, if I was ward councillor.
Well, that was a majority, Your Worship.
And then 3 abstentions of the 3 Mendip district councillors present. Thank you. So now we come back to the Uppingstock Farm. Councillor Henderson, would you wish to reiterate what we were saying?
Okay, well, it's going back quite a long time now, but when we had the first applications in, there was a deal proposed that if the application went ahead, that there was a certain amount of land there that the developer was willing to give to the town council as a play area for the children of that development. We were kind of wary at the time, if I remember rightly, about taking that fully on board because of the implications of cost of maybe equipment and maintenance and things like that. But I think we did agree that we would take a bit of land, if I remember rightly. But other than that, I'm a bit sketchy.
So I'm going to look to Councillor Cottle. Your memories of this?
Yeah, Steve's right. And And the particular plot of land is at the top of what is now Uptonstock Road.
Right.
Across there, the best I remember. But I don't know what happened, whether that was withdrawn. That offer was withdrawn, maybe. I don't think so, because I know the owner of Pear Tree Farm. I could ask him, he would know, and find out exactly what happened. That might be the easiest way out.
So my memory of this, councillors, is that a member of a person from the developers came to speak to this council. It stood at the end of the table. They had a map and they showed us the piece of land that they were going to give to the council. I don't think it was a Section 106. I think it was a gift to the council. You could say a sweetener for the development. And whilst there was some conversation about how we might manage that piece of land if we had it, no one said no to that. It has never come to us, been flagged up by anybody related to the development, although it has been mentioned several times. What we need to do, and I don't know, Connor, whether you've ever investigated this. So if you would be happy to contact Mendip's planning department and talk to the officer who is dealing with the Uppingstock Farm development and look at all of the paperwork connected with that to see whether or not this piece of land, which was going to be for play equipment, has become part of a Section 106, has indeed been earmarked for this council to own, or something else has happened to it. But if you could find out what the story is, would you be happy to report back to the council in January?
Yes, Your Worship, I'm happy to report back to the Town Council in January. Am I happy having to contact Mendip's planning department? Not quite so much, but I shall endeavour to anyway.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, of course.
If I was the town clerk, I wouldn't bother with any of the officers. There's one particular person you should go to, the head. Okay?
Judy Reed herself?
No. Go to Simon Trafford. Go straight to Simon, because I know that he's had dealings with that developer. Okay? So he's your man. And if you can't find his email address, drop me a line and I'll soon give it to you. Simon is because there has been issues on that estate. That's what I'll say. And Simon's dealt with them.
Councillor Henderson, did you wish to speak again?
Well, I was just going to say, I think, if memory serves me correctly, it was quite a sort of well-spoken gentleman that put forward the proposal. I think his name was Mr. Salmon, if I remember correctly. And to be honest, at the last month's planning board meeting, he was still playing his trade, and he was still speaking very well. And you know, if luck would have it, if he's there tomorrow night, I will certainly cover him. But yeah, it was. I did notice when he sat there last month. I thought, oh, that's the chap that came to town.
Well, don't let him off the hook. Don't let him off the hook. If you can net him, that would be great. It might be an upstream situation, but we'll get there.
Moving on.
So exactly. But any other communications and announcements, Connor?
None from me, Your Worship.
Correspondence?
Again, none from me, Your Worship.
So news releases, I think that the most prestigious thing that's going to happen this week is the Holy Thorn cutting. So I would just hope, I know I'm about taking the day off work, but if you're able to come to that, councillors, please do, because I think it'd be good to show councillors supporting this amazing ceremony. Anything else that we feel should go into the news releases? Councillor Cook.
Sorry, correspondence, yeah?
Oh yes,
Sorry.
correspondence, yeah.
Just that one letter from Ian Odom. Should perhaps be recorded about, his objection to the bench outside his premises, which we've all had.
So we note the correspondence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we formally note the correspondence.
From Ian Odom.
I think that's.
Holland and.
I'm sure Connor knows. Councillor Smythe?
There is a correspondence I'd like to share with all the councillors with permission from the clerk.
and also permission from Inspector Reid, who wrote to me about a question I had about hate crime on social media and otherwise, in particular reference against the GRT community, but more widespread. I think it would be beneficial for everybody if that correspondence was shared, but obviously I'd have to seek Inspector Reid's permission, which I'll do tomorrow night or through yourself, Connor.
When the inspector sent me the letter for you, Councillor Smythe, he did say he was happy for it to be circulated to councillors if that was your wish. Would you like me to do that, Councillor Smythe?
I'd like you to do that. I'd like you to do that.
Thank you. So, councillors, we now move to item 20, which is the actions arising from the meeting. Connor, could you give us a brief overview?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes. Actions that I've noted from the meeting, I'm going to take the feedback on the Remembrance Weekend, and we'll note that internally so that next year we can make the necessary changes or consider the order of service for next year. I'm going to make sure that we have the crime statistics ready for tomorrow for when the Police and Crime Commissioner visits us. I'm going to pass on the designing out crime recommendations regards the War Memorial to Glastonbury and Bloom. I'm going to write to the Unitary Authority regards charging of business rates. I'm going to liaise with the relevant officer for Glastonbury and Bloom on phone kiosk consultation. I'm going to work with the Climate and Resilience Officer regards using, when it's not being used by the public, the thermal imaging camera for the Town Hall. I'm going to continue organising the warm space and we'll have it advertised far and wide. I'm going to update the terms of reference. I'm going to clarify Section 106 money and land upping stock farm.
Very good.
Thank you. Do keep the chair of In Bloom up to date with your negotiations with the officer as well, please. Thank you. So to note the date and time of next meeting. So we have obviously a meeting tomorrow night with the Police and Crime Commissioner, Mark Shelford.
Read 10th of Jan.
That's the normal.
I've got apologies for that one.
So I now like to declare the meeting closed.
Your man.